Enjoy watching.
The major ridiculed the girl, and after a while, life turned so that he sobbed on his knees at her feet. Ever since she was a little girl, Lucy didn't know what rejection was. She always had everything, whatever she did not ask her parents from the first time received. The girl's father was an entrepreneur, well known in the city. He did everything well, so the money was flowing. Lucy was the only child in the family. "Daughter, are you ready?" Her mother asked her. They were going to kindergarten. "Yes," screamed the girl. She had a lot of friends, all of them she could at any time invite them to visit. No one was against it. "Today we'll go to kindergarten, and tomorrow we'll go to the movies," her mother told her on the way. They did that every weekend. The family lived outside the city. When the father had time, he took them by car, but more often, mother and daughter walked. The woman didn't work anywhere. She was a housewife, so she had a lot of free time and could do things with her daughter. "Mommy, will we go to the store in the evening?" the girl asked her. "Sure," smiled back at her mom. In kindergarten, the girl liked it. She never hooliganized, obeyed the teachers. It was her last year in kindergarten. "Well, how did my daughter behave today?" Her mom came to pick her up in the evening. "Oh, wonderful," the teacher told her. "Everyone would be like that. You're my clever girl." Her mother stroked her head. After that, they packed their things and, as the woman had promised in the morning, went shopping. "Buy me this toy." Lucy asked her mother for a big elephant. "Where are you going to get so many of them?" Mom didn't refuse, but she would have bought something else with pleasure. "Mommy," her daughter looked at her with such eyes that it was impossible to refuse. "Okay, give us this elephant," said the woman to the seller. After that, the happy daughter walked with the huge elephant through the streets. She saw other children looking at her, so she was very grateful to her mommy. At home, they did various activities. Her mommy taught her to embroider, to draw, because she herself had a craving for it. Earlier, one of the walls was filled with paintings, which were made by women's hands. Now there were others that had been embroidered or painted by the girl. "Lucy, read me this fairy tale," her mother used to tell her before she went to bed. It's not right. It's the mother who should read fairy tales to the child, not the child to the mother, she laughed loudly. Thus, Mom wanted to accustom her daughter to reading and interest in books. It was possible not to go to kindergarten in the summer, but Lucy herself insisted on it. Mom did not oppose it. "Well, Hal, there are friends there," said the girl. Yes, I do not argue with you." Mom was not at all against it, because during the day, while no one was at home, she was doing her own thing. Summer flew by quickly, and here, Arinka went to the first grade. From the very first day, the teacher liked her for her diligence, clean uniform, beautiful bows. All pens and notebooks were folded neatly. "Arishka, sit at the first desk," she said to her when they came to the classroom after the line. "Thank you." She sat down and folded her hands on the desk. From that day on, school began. Just like in kindergarten, the girl tried to do everything the teacher assigned. She glued, molded, drew, wrote, read, and at the same time, practically did everything alone. "Maybe you need some help." Her mom came up to her in the evening. "No, I've already done everything. Here, look." She handed her notebooks to her. "Oh, what a clever girl you are." The woman admired her. The father was not at home more and more. He was busy with work, but no one blamed him for that, because he did everything for his girls. So passed year after year, and here, already the girl began to study in the middle school. "Lucy, what do you want to be?" her mother often asked her. "I don't know. If they paid good money for it, I would become an artist," she said. "Why not give it a try?" Lucy had already been going to art school for 3 years. "I don't even know, but it's too early to tell," she reasoned sensibly. In the evenings, she mostly painted pictures or still lifes. "Why don't you go out with your friends?" Mom wondered. "I do not know, as it does not want to. They have only nonsense in their heads," said her daughter. "And what?" I wondered. "Stupidity in their heads?" Was interested in Mom. "Different. I don't want to talk about it." Lucy went on with her work. When she was already in 9th grade, she decided for sure that she would choose the profession of an artist. Perhaps she would start teaching other kids to draw, and if she went, she would paint to sell, which is what she was aiming for. Wasting time on the 10th and 11th grade did not want to, so after the end of the 9th grade, Lucy entered the cadraf. in the school, which was located in their city. "Daughter, are you sure you decided to connect your life with this profession?" Mom and Dad were worried about her because they knew that the teacher, this is not a lucrative profession, and the artist is unlikely that in his lifetime will sell paintings. "With my years, I'll do it, and if it does not go, there is still time to retrain," she replied. Well, as you know, Mom knew that with her daughter to argue useless, if she decided something that decided, it will do it to the end. It was easy at school. Lucy knew and understood everything for a long time. She knew about paints, canvases, brushes. They often went on plein airs. On one of them, Lucy met Max. "Hi," he came up to her. "Hello," she broke away from her work. "I'm Max." He held out his hand to her. "Lucy," she smiled and shook it. "What year are you in?" He sat down next to her. "Third," she smiled modestly. "I'm in second." He moved his easel closer to hers and they began to paint together. "What do you do in the evening?" he asked unobtrusively. "I don't know, I work," she shrugged. "And what is your work?" the guy asked. "Many people order me portraits to give to their loved ones or parents, and I also design banners," she answered and laughed. She was interested. It was the first time a young man had approached her. If they approached her, they were interested in her personally, not in her work. "Maybe we can go somewhere," he suggested to her. "And where to?" She was curious. She liked the guy too. "I don't know, there's a cafe in town. Maybe there." He looked at her. Okay, for the first time in her life, Lucy was going on a date. "Then I'll wait for you there after 7 o'clock tonight," Max said and continued drawing. "Lucy, where are you going?" Her mother asked her in the evening when she saw that her daughter had changed more than one outfit. "Going on a date," she said, her cheeks flushed. "What date? You didn't tell me anything about it." Mom was very surprised. "Today I met a young man at the plein air. His name is Max. He invited me to a cafe, which recently opened in our city," she began to tell me, and she was trying on earrings. But wow, what news, the woman rejoiced. She went to her room and returned a few minutes later. "Here, look," she opened her hand in which there was a pearl necklace and earrings. "Mom, these are your favorites." Her daughter looked at her. "It's okay. I think it's just right for a first date, modest and tasteful." The woman knew a lot about jewelry. Lucy put on the black dress, the necklace and earrings her mother had given her, and let her hair down. It was dark in color. The voluminous hair fell to her shoulders. It was very beautiful. "Well, how do you like me?" asked the daughter to her mother. "Just beautiful," she said. Lucy, in a good mood, went to the cafe, where a young man was waiting for her. When she got there, the time was already 8:30. The girl entered the room and immediately saw him. "Max," she went up to him. "Lucy, I thought you weren't coming," he said to her, stood up, and pushed back a chair for her to sit down. "I didn't calculate the time for the road. We live outside the city. I walked here," she began to tell him. "The main thing is that you came. It's nothing." The waiter brought their order before the girl could look at the menu. "Wow, that speed," she looked at him. "You apologize for my impudence, but I've already made an order." There were 2 salads on the table, as well as 2 glasses of champagne. "That's okay, it's my favorite salad," she smiled. She enjoyed spending time with this guy. First of all, he was cute, she liked him, and secondly, their tastes matched. "You probably have a lot of suitors," he told her and was embarrassed. "What are you saying?" "I went on a date with you for the first time." She also blushed. "Wow, and where have you been hiding your beauty?" And he covered her hand with his hand. "Max," she pulled it out and lowered her eyes. "What's the big deal?" He didn't understand. "I think it's too early on a first date to have tactile contact," was her opinion. "Okay, whatever, no touching." The guy shrugged. They continued to sit, looking at each other, talking. After a well-spent evening, Max offered to walk the girl home. She did not refuse. "Wow, how far you live." They kept walking and walking along the road. "In general, we have a car, but my mom and I rarely use it. Most of my dad drives it. And when he's on his way with us, he can give us a ride," Lucy told him. All understood. The boy was silent. When they reached the girl's house, he whistled as he looked at the 2-story structure. "Wow, what a big house you live in," he said in admiration. "Come on, it's not my fault. It's my father's," she told him. "But it's your father," the guy said, It was obvious he was trying to pretend he wasn't jealous. That's it, bye. She grabbed the doorknob. Will we meet tomorrow? He asked her, and he stood there thinking that she wouldn't be friends with a beggar. At school, of course we'll meet, she laughed. He didn't want to leave until he found out if she'd go out with him or not. Are you asking me out on another date? She questioned him. Why not? And then another, and another, and another. He was happy. Okay, I agree. Just let's make a deal. Go for a walk right after school so I don't have to go home and then walk back to the city, she suggested to him. I agree to everything, Max quickly agreed. The boy turned around, said goodbye, and went home. Lucy went into her place as well. How did it go? Her mother asked her from the doorstep. She looked at the woman with such eyes that she realized that her daughter had fallen in love. The next day, Lucy didn't go to school as usual. She usually wore jeans, a sweater, and sneakers. But today she was wearing a beautiful dress. Her hair was braided, and she still had the same pearl earrings in her ears. Lucy, she heard someone calling her, looked up and saw that it was Max. Hi, she waved at him. Wait, he caught up with her, and they walked into the building together. So, how are you feeling? She asked the guy. Great, he told her. Then, before meeting up after couples, they parted near the auditorium where she was supposed to have class. Yeah. Come on, she was pleased that the guy was paying so much attention to her. All day she was in an uplifted mood, and after classes were over, she walked out of the college and immediately saw him. Max, she shouted. Yes, hi, I'm waiting. He looked at her with loving eyes. They met, held hands, and walked. Lucy liked walking with the young man, she smiled. So what shall we do? He turned to her. I don't know, suggest. She trusted him. Initially suggest we go for a walk in the park. He looked at the girl. I won't say no, she laughed. They headed towards the park. There were various rides. You could shoot at the shooting range, which was the first thing they did. Max took a long time aiming at the target and eventually won a big bear for Lucy. Oh, thank you. No one has ever done anything like that for me, she hugged the toy. Will be the third one with us. He was glad he had managed to do it. After that, they went to the Ferris wheel, sat in a booth. It was very scary and fun at the same time. After riding on the wheel, they went to an ice cream parlor, made an order, and sat talking for a long time. They enjoyed the treat. Why did you choose me? The girl asked him. I don't know, he shrugged, and it was true. I never dated anyone before. I didn't even have a friend. I was at home all the time, studying, being with my parents, and now, she looked up at him and smiled. And now you will be together with me, he finished the phrase for her. It turns out that way. She folded her hands in front of her. It was obvious that the girl was very worried. What are you going to do on vacation? Max asked her. I haven't thought about it yet, but usually I go to the nature and transfer some beautiful views to paper. She began to tell him what she had done last summer. Well, that's a great idea. He didn't mind drawing either. The more they talked to the guy, the more she blushed and was embarrassed by him. What are you so shy about? He tried the attempt to put his hand on hers again. I don't know, I'm usually easy to get along with people, but with you, it's like this, she admitted honestly. Usually it should be the other way around. The more people communicate, the more they get to know each other and the shyness goes away. He really liked this girl. But I have it like this, she averted her eyes to the side. Well, of course, it takes time to get to know each other, he told her. That day, they stayed in the park until the evening. And then, as yesterday, Max went to see Lucy home. Would you come to visit? She asked him today. Isn't it early? He was surprised. I'll introduce you to your parents, and then it will be seen. She wanted to show the guy to her mom. I don't mind, the guy answered her. They entered the gate. Lucy, is that you? They heard in the hallway. Yes, Mom, I'm not alone, she warned her, so that the woman, God forbid, did not say anything unnecessary. And with whom? Mom came out of the kitchen. Hello, looked at her young man. You must be Max, she guessed. Yes, my name is Max, he smiled his sweetest smile. And I, Veronica. Come in, she invited the children into the kitchen. They came in and sat down at the table. Are you going to have dinner? Veronica asked them. Probably not, but we'll have tea. Lucy looked at Max. Yes, I agree, he confirmed. They sat in the kitchen until their father came home. Oh, I see we have company." He came into the kitchen. "Yes, Lucy brought a friend to introduce us." His wife approached him. "Great," said the man, and walked over to the young man. "Max," he held out his hand. "Tony," he said, and shook it. "It's a pleasure to meet you," the guy said to them. "And you and me." They all sat down at the table. The evening was going well. They talked, learning about each other, who, where from, why they came, who the parents were, and everything else. "Well, Max, we invite you to visit. You can come to us every night." Lucy and his parents saw him off. "Thank you," he told them. When he opened the door, Lucy decided to go out with him and walk him to the gate. "Your parents are good," the young man told her. "I know that myself," she laughed back. They walked up to the gate, stopping. "Max, you know, we've only been talking to you for a couple days, but it feels like a couple years," she giggled. "You wouldn't believe it. I have the same feeling," he told her. Max grabbed the handle of the gate and was about to open it when Lucy came over and kissed him gently on the cheek. He grabbed the spot and turned to her. His eyes widened. "I'm sorry," she was embarrassed. "No, you're not. Yesterday, when you wouldn't let me put my hand on yours, I thought it would be a long time before I got to do that." He wrapped his arms around her. They stood like that for a few minutes, and then Max kissed her cheek too, opened the gate, and went home. Lucy stood looking after him. She was pleased. She realized that she was beginning a serious relationship with the boy. How did it go? Her mom asked her when she got back to the house. It was fine, she told her mom, and went to her room. Today, she wanted to draw something tender, something big. Max. She sketched some lines on the paper that made an abstract image of a young man holding a heart. Lucy dreamed of a future with Max, and believed that everything would be all right. The next day, as she was walking to her studies, she saw him. "What are you doing here?" She didn't understand. "I wanted to meet you," he honestly admitted. Understandably, the girl realized that their relationship was becoming more serious every day. Together, they came to the educational institution. On the way they talked, Lucy told what her mom told her about him yesterday. Max was happy that nothing bad was said about him. The boy and the girl started dating. Now, no one was shy of anyone anymore. After studying, they went for walks. Often after the walks, they came to visit Lucy. Everything was very good. After Lucy finished the 4th year, she had to enter the institute. During the summer vacation, Max offered her to go on vacation to the south. "Max, do you have a driver's license?" Lucy's father asked him when they were discussing the vacation at their home. "I do. Why do you ask?" The boy was surprised. "You could take the car and go on vacation in it, to make it more convenient for you," he said. "It's uncomfortable." The guy was embarrassed that complete strangers just trust him with their car. "Uncomfortable to sleep on the ceiling," grinned the father. Max agreed, tucked him under the table. Girl. Together they were almost a year and a half, knew each other well, so they trusted. "Well, okay, if you ask." He looked at his favorite. "That's fine, Veronica. Do you want to go with them, or do you not want to take her with you?" Tony couldn't take his wife himself, but if his daughter and her friend took her along, he wouldn't mind her spending some time on vacation. "Why don't we? We'll take her." Lucy looked at the young man. "Of course we will." He had nothing against it. The women began to pack their things, of which they had taken a great deal. After that, they all got into the car, said goodbye to their father, and drove off. The way lay through many cities of the United States, in each of which Max, Lucy, and Veronica stopped. They took pictures, visited some sites, and drove on. It was fun in the car. The young people told stories and sang songs. Although the road took a lot of days, but these days remained unnoticed because there was always something to do. Had anyone thought about lodging? Veronica suddenly remembered. "Yes, we called when we were still in our town," agreed, "and rented a house," said her daughter. "Great, then let's go there. I would like to take a shower." It was obvious that the woman was a little tired. They arrived at the place where they were to spend the next 2 weeks. The young ones checked into one room, the mother into another. They started unpacking and agreed to meet in the courtyard by the pool in the evening. "Well, shall we make a plan? What we will do in the next 2 weeks?" Veronica asked the children. "Yes, what can be a plan? The sea, the sun, the beach, vacation. That's the whole planet," said the young people. "I do not argue with you." "Okay." The woman was only in favor. In the evening, they walked through the local stores, went to a small cafe, bought some homemade wine, and returned to their yard. How nice it is here. Veronica sat down on a comfortable armchair that stood here. Max poured wine into glasses and brought them to the table. There was also cut watermelon, melon, lay other fruits. The family wanted to fry meat, but no one felt like doing anything this evening. All right, we'll put off the shashlik for tomorrow, Max said in a businesslike manner. No one is hungry today, the women agreed with him. The wine was very tasty, but after a couple of glasses, it wore out the vacationers, and everyone went to their rooms. What shall we do tomorrow? Max whispered to Lucy when they were going to bed. Oh, let's think about it tomorrow. She didn't feel like talking. The next day in the morning, they went to the sea because it was not hot, and before lunch they wanted to go home. Veronica was everywhere, unstoppable with them. Of course, at first it embarrassed her, but then the young ones convinced the woman that she was not disturbing anyone. They had plenty of time and at night to talk to the two of them. Only then did the woman calm down. After 3 days in the South, Max called Lucy for a ride around the city and beyond. You won't be offended if I don't go with you. The mother came out to them. Of course not, rest up, Max told her. They drove through the city, saw what it was like here, and afterward drove outside of it. With an artist's eye, they saw how beautiful it was, and they wanted to see something that they would immediately want to put on paper. Look how beautiful it is there, Lucy showed him in the distance. It was almost sunset, and it was really beautiful on the horizon. They drove there, and on the bridge the boy lost control. Ah, screamed Lucy, and that was the last thing the guy heard. He tried to turn the wheel, but he couldn't do it. They smashed through the bridge railing and the car went flying down. Lucy, 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 Lucy. He was rubbing her shoulders, but the girl was unconscious. His legs were jammed up himself, and he couldn't do anything. Someone must have seen it happen, because after a while, various services arrived, ambulance, police. It took a long time to get Max out of the car, just like Lucy. They were both taken to the local hospital. The girl was unconscious, and from there the guy called Veronica and told her what had happened. It was very scary and bitter to realize that everything was bad. Where's my daughter? What's wrong with her? A disheveled woman ran into the hospital. Calm down, she's in intensive care. The doctor stopped her. Lucy was indeed in intensive care. Her spine was damaged and the bones in her legs were shattered. Max, on the other hand, had more minor fractures, a broken knee, and a few sprains in his other leg. Max, how did this happen? His mother sobbed on his shoulder. I don't know, we were cut off by a car. I started to turn the steering wheel since we were on the bridge. I couldn't control it, and we fell down, he said. In fact, his temples were throbbing. He realized that he should not have taken that car, because he had not sat behind the wheel for a long time. But what was the use of waving his fists now that the fight was over? The guy lay on the bed, tears flowing from his eyes. No one knew exactly what had happened to Lucy. All the diagnoses were made at random. But when a few weeks passed, it was clear that the girl's spine was damaged seriously and that she would not walk in the near future, so it is absolutely certain. Beloved, forgive me, sat Max beside her bed. He himself was in a cast, but could move quietly on crutches. Don't worry about me too much, the girl told him. How can I not worry if it's all my fault, he told her. It could happen to anyone. Lucy lay on the bed immobilized on her back and looked at the ceiling. Love, I'm going to say a terrible thing. You want to judge me for it. You want to do whatever you want, but I have to go home. He saw the girl's eyes widen, but she didn't say anything to him. Only tears flowed from her eyes. I will not leave you. I will help you financially, Max told her, but he did not look at her. It's okay, she only answered him. When Veronica learned that Max was leaving, she did not say anything to him, just like her daughter, just looked at him when he was taken away by car. After that, mother and daughter stayed in this city for 4 more months. First, they were in the same hospital, and then they were moved to a rehabilitation center paid for by the father. The doctors did what they could with her, but nothing could be done. Lucy never got back on her feet. And then they moved to their own town, but the lessons didn't end there. Daddy did not spare any money. He hired a rehabilitologist who came to their home, gave the girl massages. She'd had more than one surgery by then. What do you do? Her mother used to drop by. Nothing, I draw. She looked at the table, where there was a sheet of paper. Lately, Lucy's drawings were in dark colors. Some kind of circles with thorns, like wrapped wire. Lucy hadn't been out for a long time. She didn't socialize with anyone. Like before, she was always at home. Daughter, you don't need to lock yourself in. You have talent. Your hands work. Your head works too. You can draw. And without getting up from the chair, though it was painful, but her mother told her. No, I can't, her mom told her. Why can't you? What's stopping you? She didn't understand. I ran out of inspiration. Her eyes were very sad. The girl was ready to cry. Do you want me to call Max? Her mom asked her. No, you don't need to call him. Let him build his life, her daughter told her. But you can't do that. You're still very young. You have everything ahead of you. My father and I will not spare any money for you to recover. The woman did not give up. Okay, Lucy has been thinking about it for a long time. I want to start a foundation. A man wrote her an email. He saw her works on the internet and now he wanted to buy one of them. And when he found out that she was disabled, he also paid her. Then the girl thought that her talent was not wasted. She will write, sell, and help sick people. I don't get it. What foundation? Her mom sat down across from her. To help people who are in the same situation as me, she put her hands on her lap. I don't mind. I'll even help you with that, she told her daughter. When her father came home in the evening, they talked it over and decided that everything was possible. The very next day, Lucy started looking for people on the internet who would agree to volunteer at her foundation. Strangely enough, many people responded on the first evening. The girl's sessions with the rehabilitator did not stop, just as she traveled to various clinics. These were both American and foreign medical centers. At home, near the exercise machine, Lucy could even stand up on her own. I am so happy for you, daughter. Her mother supported her in everything. But this support was not enough. The girl kept thinking about Max. You think about him, don't you? Often her mother sat down near the girl when she was resting, took her hand, and together they were silent. Don't bring him up, okay, her daughter asked her. Okay, we won't. The woman sighed heavily. She was in just as much pain as her daughter. 2.5 years passed after the accident. Lucy got up one morning and asked her mom to take her to the park today. There was a party there. A lot of people were there, and Lucy wanted to raise some money from people who cared. Of course we'll do it, the woman agreed with her. While Veronica was getting ready, Lucy wrote to all her helpers that today they would be present at the holiday. No one refused her. Naturally, her dad put in the first sponsorship, and they headed over to where there were a lot of people today. Hello. For the first time, Lucy met her volunteers who were already waiting for her in the square of the park. Oh, you're in a chair. I didn't expect to see her like this. Yes, what's the big deal? She didn't understand. Lucy brought with her a lot of pictures that she had painted before, and now she was ready to portray anyone, just to earn some money. No one had ever applied to her foundation. She volunteered to help those she knew needed help. And today, she knew that there was a little boy in their town who had scalded himself very badly and needed money for an operation. The plan was to raise money for it today. So, which one of you can do what? Lucy asked the helpers. I'll paint, she said to herself. Some went off to make jewelry to sell, some to make something else. Everyone was busy. Lucy collected them by the end of the evening. She wanted to see how much money they had raised today. I enjoyed working today. Not only did I bring joy to people, but it wasn't useless. The young man put a stack of money on the table. Wow, the others raised their eyebrows in surprise. I earned a little money too. Lucy put her savings on the table. When they counted it all up, it turned out that the operation, at least the first one, should be enough. It couldn't help but feel good. They'd all said goodbye, each of them promising to keep doing it. To send pictures to Lucy's website, where she could sell paintings, jewelry, and anything else the volunteers made with their own hands. And that was the end of it. Mom, can you help me? She looked back at the woman sitting off to the side. Yes, of course. Are you done yet? She approached her. Veronica took hold of the handles of the stroller, and they drove down the alley to the park exit. Look, an invalid, they heard from the side. How dare you? Veronica turned to them. On a bench sat young men. You could see that they were majors. In front of them was a small table with snacks and beer. What are you yapping about? One of them was sitting leg to leg. How dare you talk to me like that? First of all, I'm old enough to be your mother, and secondly, to laugh at an invalid. It's a sin. It's good that it didn't happen in your life. The woman was indignant to the core. Mom, let's get out of here. Lucy wanted them to leave. No way, wait, he approached them. What else did you want? The woman looked at him defiantly. Are you being rude to me? He stood and looked at the woman with insolence. Veronica compressed her lips. She rolled the stroller back and wanted to go around him, but he with a laugh blocked her way. Where are you going? The young man asked him. Please step back. We need to pass. Look Veronica in his eyes. What if we don't? He looked at his friends and smirked. It seemed like he was showing off in front of them. Go away, went the woman at him. Shay, can't you get up at all? He asked, looking at Lucy. Please, can we come through? She looked up at him. Or maybe I want you to sit with us. You collected donations today, so make it nice and I'll donate. And he and his friends began to cackle. And we don't want that. The mother was already shaking from the insolence of this man. Let's check it out. He grabbed her arm and dragged her from the chair. What are you doing? The woman screamed. Look, we look together. Aha, laughed at the girl. The guy impressed her to himself. Put her in her seat, Veronica shouted. Or what's going to happen? The major continued to laugh. Harvey, for real, put her in her place, already stood up for Lucy, his friends. And you too, look, and he, like a marionette, led her, moving his legs and pushing the girl. He laughed so hard that tears flowed from his eyes. At that moment, Lucy's father arrived at the gate. Tony, as soon as he saw his daughter being bullied, he immediately ran towards them. The man almost forcefully snatched his daughter from the hands of the guy and put her back in the chair. Bastard, how dare you do that to a disabled person? He began to reprimand him. Here, uncle, go by. Still laughed Harvey. We'll go away, but just look. Laughing at other people's grief should never happen, no matter how in your life such a thing happens, said the unhappy father. Come on, get out of here, laughed the young man. Lucy, how are you doing? Her mom leaned over to her. Everything is fine, cried the girl. She was ashamed that everything happened like that, but she could not do anything. The parents brought the stroller to the car, put their daughter in it, and drove home. The car ride was silent. No one said anything. Lucy thought that she would study even more to prove to everyone that it was possible to get up even after such an accident. Hello, Lucy called the next day to the sick boy's mom. Good afternoon, said the grief-stricken mother. Yesterday at the holiday my fund flowers collected for your son a sum of money, which is enough for the first operation, said Lucy. What? We didn't come to you. The woman was surprised and amazed. Yes, but I saw that it happened and decided to help. The girl spoke kindly to her. I don't understand. You are so kind. It was heard that the boy's mother cried. Today will come one of those who will give you the money. That's the end of the conversation. After that, a lot of people found out about the local foundation. Some of them, when they heard this, Harvey had been born to mom and dad when they were in their late 40s. Of course, the boy didn't understand anything from childhood, but he knew that there was a family rich. They lived in a large house. The boy went to a private kindergarten. Whatever he wanted, he always had as a child. Mom, why don't we go on vacation? He asked the woman when school started on vacation. Why don't we go? We will, she would tell him. Everything, always and everywhere. Whatever the boy asked for, he had. When he was in the 8th grade, his dad taught him how to drive a car. By 9th grade, he had his own. He didn't want to study much, so he finished school, and after that, his dad helped him buy a diploma. So you're not going to do anything? His mom was worried about him. She realized that she and his father were not getting any younger, and her son could be left without anything. Oh, I'm fine as I am, Harvey told her. Every day he would gather friends at home. His parents provided it all. They never said anything to their son, so they had him as a spoiled young man. Harvey, if I stopped doing my business, who would carry it on? His father often sat down to talk to him. What's to continue it? You have deputies, directors. His father had a small factory, which brought a lot of profit. The guy did not think about anything at all. On his mind were only friends, drinking and partying. girls he also went through and changed like gloves. None of them he felt any real feelings for. A scoundrel screamed at him the next passions and ran away from him. Yes, a scoundrel, but there's variety, he told her afterwards. He never felt sorry for anyone. He was ready to throw anyone in trouble. For this he was not liked by many, but friends with him did not stop. Once he was in a club with his comrades. They, as usual, sat at a table, drinking. Everything was good and fun. The guy saw a girl he liked. "Look, did you know her?" he asked his friends. "No." First time seeing her, they looked at the one their friend was pointing at. So Harvey turned on all his charm, got his money ready, and went to seduce his new acquaintance. "Hi," he shouted loudly to overpower the music. "Hi," she shouted back. "Let's go to the bar," he called out to her. They moved from the dance floor to behind the bar, sat on the stools there. Harvey immediately ordered cocktails for himself and her. Harvey introduced himself and he held out his glass to her. "Veronica," she smiled back and accepted the treat. "Are you here alone?" the young man asked her, referring to her male companion. With friends, she looked over to where she had just danced. There were 2 other girls there. "And me and my friends," he showed her to the VIP area, from where 2 young men waved to her. "Nice," she took a sip. Harvey looked at this girl and didn't understand what it was about her that got him. She seemed like an ordinary girl, like everyone else, but there was something about her that attracted him. "Let's go to our table," he called out to her. "Come on," she nodded to her friends and they followed her. Everyone at the table got to know each other, and the night was fun. When Harvey once again went to the bathroom and came back, the girls were not at the table. "Where are the girls?" he asked his friends. They said they'd gone home, and they shrugged. "Why didn't you stop them? We would have walked them home." Harvey wondered. "What? You would have walked them home?" They were surprised. It was the first time they had heard a friend say that. "I don't know why, but Veronica's got me hooked," he admitted to his friends. "And what, an ordinary girl like many?" They were surprised. "I tell you, I don't know. I'm amazed at myself." He sat down and took the glass in his hands. The next day, he tried to look for the girl, but he had no luck. In the evening, he went to the club again, but Veronica wasn't there. "Did you happen to take those girls' phone numbers?" Harvey asked his friends. No, they looked at each other. Usually, if they met girls at the club, it was for one night, just for fun. Harvey himself was the first to do that. "Shit, how am I going to find her?" the young man thought. From that day on, for a month, every night, he went to this club. He didn't care about any other girls, neither cocktails nor dancing. He was looking for Veronica. And now, after a month, he didn't expect anything. But when he came there, he saw her behind the bar. "Hi," Harvey quickly approached her. "Oh, hey," she looked at him. "Where have you been?" He looked at her like she was a miracle. "What do you mean?" She didn't know what he was talking about. "Then, at the club, you left. You didn't leave any phone numbers, nothing." "I only know your name. Been looking for you all this time, but couldn't find you," he told her honestly. "I didn't think you liked me that much." Veronica smiled to herself. Harvey ordered cocktails again. They sat for a while, danced, and then he invited her to walk around the night city. The girl was pleased with all this. She went with him. They wandered the streets, walked in the park, and only in the morning he walked her home. "Do you live here?" He was surprised when they reached one of the high-rise buildings. "No, I won't tell you where I live yet." She averted her eyes. "Well, okay. At least leak your phone number," he asked her. They exchanged phone numbers and Harvey went home happy. The next day, as soon as he woke up, he dialed the girl's number. "Hi," he said hello to her. "Hi," she answered him. "Shall we go out tonight?" he asked seriously. Veronica was silent for a while, then agreed. She had set up a meeting for him near the park, and Harvey couldn't wait for the evening when the meeting would take place. Tonight he'd gotten a car, and she and he had taken it for a midnight drive. "Let's go to my place," Harvey told her as they were getting ready to go home. "No, it's late. I have to go home." She didn't want to rush things. "Good," Harvey marveled to himself. Earlier, he would have started kissing her right there in the car. But he didn't want to do that to Veronica. He drove her back to the same place where they'd parted yesterday and drove home. "Son, what's going on with you?" His mom asked him. "Your face is gone." "I'm fine," he said. But I can see that it's not normal. Before you were not to be found at home. And now you come early, sitting at home sad. Sat down at the table opposite his mother. I think I've fallen in love, he said to the most dear person. What are you doing? She splashed her hands. Mom had been waiting for this moment because she knew that her son could not be like this as he was before. Yes, and this girl is different, he sighed. What's she like? I wanted to know more about the mother. If before I could just wave my finger at anyone and she would follow me and do whatever I wanted. This one saw that I have money and a car and I live in a good house, but whatever I told her, she all answers that let's not rush things, goes home and behaves differently than everyone else, he shared with his mother. But not everyone is like you thought. Mom smiled to herself. She was happy that finally her son may be settling down. And indeed, he began to dress differently than before, to go to the stores, to buy some gifts, to take care of his girlfriend. Veronica, you and I have been together for 3 months now. Maybe we should meet the parents, he suggested it. Isn't it early? She looked at him. I guess not. He didn't understand what the big deal was. All right, I'll meet your parents. Veronica did mine. Inside, Harvey was so happy. He couldn't believe that the girl had agreed. With that, they drove to his house. His mom had already been warned that he might be coming with a girl in the evening, so she was waiting for them. They went to the kitchen, sat down at the table. The father was not at home, but the mother was busy in the kitchen. What are you doing, Veronica? She asked her. I was studying. Now I'm on vacation, the girl said. It was clear. The woman saw that she did not want to talk to her. Mom prepared everything and left the kitchen, did not disturb the young people. Why don't we go to my room? Harvey asked her for good luck. Let's go, but not today, was unapproachable Veronica. They sat a little longer. The father never returned and the girl got up and said she had to go home. Harvey drove her, came back. Her mom had already cleared everything off the table. So what did you think of her? The guy asked her. I don't know, you have to live with her. Mom was happy on one hand. I don't know either. I fell in love like a juvenile fool. It had never happened to me before. And now I can't help thinking about her even for a minute, he honestly told his mother. Their meetings continued for another 6 months, but the girl still did not let not come closer to himself, nor kiss, nor do anything. Whatever Harvey did, she either did not perceive or she did not like it. Will you marry me? One day they met in the park. What? She looked at him. Didn't you hear what I asked you? He stood there, his eyes downcast. I heard, but isn't it a bit early? It seemed like Veronica didn't want to socialize with this man at all. I don't know what else I can do for you. I love you more than anyone else in the world, and I am ready to do anything for your sake, even this step, he honestly admitted. Okay, I'll think about it, she replied. Maybe we could go to a restaurant and celebrate, Harvey suggested. Okay, I agreed. Veronica smiled and got into the car. They arrived at the restaurant, where a table was already booked. You assumed, yes, that I would agree, she guessed. Well, how without it? The guy didn't know where to put his hands. It was the first time he had such excitement. When the waiter brought champagne and hors d'oeuvres, Harvey pulled a ring out of his pocket and handed the box to Veronica. Harvey, you're so good, she looked at him. Veronica, I love you so much. He took her hands in his. No one recognized what had happened to the young man. He withdrew from his friends, no longer went out at night, spent all his time with his girlfriend, and she was unapproachable. When they applied to the registry office, Veronica called him for a walk. They sat on a bench. She took his hand and looked into his eyes. Do you want to tell me something? He guessed. Yes, she answered. Speak, I'm listening to you. Harvey thought to himself the worst, that now she would refuse him, go away, and they would never see each other again. Harvey, why do you think you've never seen my parents and don't know where I live? Because I was raised in an orphanage, and I live with 2 other girls. We rent an apartment. Now she wasn't looking at him. What's the big deal? I've got a big house, plenty of room for everyone. He was surprised that she couldn't tell him the truth about herself from the beginning. I didn't want you to think I was into you for the money or the house or anything like that, she twiddled her thumbs. Silly girl, he hugged her, and so they sat like that for a long time. It seemed to Harvey that he was the happiest man in the world, for the one he loved so much had agreed and opened herself to him. He had already imagined what kind of wife she would be, how they would live together, and everything else. "I didn't expect you to take it all so well." Veronica hugged her chosen one for the first time. Preparations for the wedding began. Harvey's parents supported their children in everything. They spared no expense on a dress for the bride and also bought a suit for the groom. The restaurant, the guests, the groceries, everything was taken care of by the father as usual. "I didn't even expect it to be like this," Veronica said to her future husband. That's not all. He did not like the soul in the one he chose as his wife. Now friends who came to visit them saw a completely different person, not the Harvey they knew before. Everyone helped with everything. No one was left out. If it was necessary to buy groceries, Harvey only had to ask some friend and he would bring the groceries. The girls also helped Veronica with the preparations for the wedding. Harvey wanted to make the best holiday for his girlfriend. "Why are you spending so much? A simple painting would be enough for us," she told him. "You are the best girl in the world, and you deserve a good party," he told her. "You're so good, though I didn't think so at first," she told him back. The wedding was to take place at the end of the summer, and everyone was looking forward to it. "How many guests will you have?" the mother asked her son. "How many will not be all ours?" he laughed in response. "Son, have you ever thought that you need to get a job somewhere because you will have to provide for the family?" she said to him. "No, I haven't thought about it yet," he honestly admitted. In fact, he had thought about getting a job with his father, at least to see what they do there. But he was so used to doing nothing that he didn't want to. Veronica had to study for another year, so he didn't even count on her. "Move in with me," he told her the next time he saw her. "I'll get married, then I'll move in," she told him. "Why do you keep stalling? Are you afraid of me?" he wondered. "I'm not afraid of you. I just do everything by the rules. The bride and groom must live in separate houses," she said. "I don't understand it, Harvey." Though he had been decent lately, sometimes the old young man he used to be woke up in him. All the time he and Veronica had been dating, they hadn't even kissed once, let alone more. That's why the guy was nervous sometimes. A week before the wedding, he started having some anxiety. He didn't know what was going on. "Harvey, calm down," his mom told him. "I cannot. This is a very serious step." Now he fully realized that in a few days he will be unfree. He would have to be responsible not only for himself, but also for his family. And now the day had come. Friends, girlfriends, redemption, registry office, restaurant. Congratulations, it was like a fog. The young sat at the table, but it seems that Harvey without wine was drunk with happiness. After that, in the house of the groom's parents, half was allocated for the accommodation of the young. At one time, Veronica was shy about doing anything there, because two hostesses could not be in the kitchen. But then she saw that Colin's mother was not so young anymore, and it was difficult for her to do all the housekeeping. She began to help her with everything, and Harvey at the same time began to go to work with his father. He wasn't exactly young, but he didn't know much about life. "Well, why are you so armless?" sighed father. He realized that he cannot do much, and that soon it will be time for him to retire, and there is no replacement for him. "It was you who made me like this," said his son. "Since childhood, you have not taught me anything. You paid money for everything, hired specialists, bought a diploma, so I have not learned anything." It was hard to realize that. "At least you got a good wife," my father sighed. Toward New Year's Eve, everything was fine. They were going to celebrate the family holiday. "Harvey, did you buy Veronica a present?" his mother asked him. "No, I'll give her the money and let her buy it herself," he said. "It's nicer to get a surprise than to choose one for yourself," she advised him. Harvey wanted to work for his father, but he never learned anything, and he still took money from the common purse. At the holiday table on New Year's Day sat 4 people: Harvey, his wife, and his parents. "Well, first Mom started talking. I want to give you a present." "You?" Her husband stared at her. Veronica looked at her husband while her mother left the table, went to the dresser, and came back. "My children, I see that Veronica is not quite comfortable living with us in the same house, so we consulted and decided to buy you an apartment." She handed the keys to her son. "Mom," he looked at her. Yes, don't ask anything. Move in and live." She sat back down. Everyone was happy. "And I have a New Year's present for you too," Veronica told them. And what is it? The parents were surprised because they realized that the girl was studying. She could not give them anything that would surprise them very much. Harvey, you will soon be a daddy and you will be grandparents, she announced to them, and put a pregnancy test on the table, which had 2 red stripes on it. Veronica, the mother, jumped up from her seat and began to hug her daughter-in-law. Beloved, Harvey looked at her with big eyes. I was already thinking we wouldn't live to see this moment, muttered the woman. I am happy. The husband's father got up and also hugged his daughter-in-law. No one had words. They sat and looked at the girl, and the girl at them. From that day, Harvey and Veronica moved into their own apartment. Though the girl was studying, she had time for a lot of things. She arranged the coziness of the house, did everything for her husband so that he was always fed and fed. You are the best thing that could happen to me in life, he told her. And you with me, she would hug her husband. Harvey still traveled to his father's factory. He was the youngest technician there, but that didn't embarrass him. He was different now than he had been a few years ago. Oh, Veronica clutched her stomach in the evening. It's still early. Harvey was afraid. I don't know, she looked at him with eyes so big and frightened that the young man's hands shook. He didn't know what to grab onto. Quickly, he grabbed his car keys, the bag he had prepared just in case, and they quietly went downstairs. His wife was sitting up, only screaming in the backseat. Be patient, love. They were at the hospital in half an hour. The doctors immediately picked up the girl and led her away. Harvey was left alone in the hallway. He didn't know what to do. He sat in the chair, then called his parents. What's the matter with you? His mother was worried. Can I come to you? He asked her. Why do you ask? Come in everything. She was worried too. The young man did not know whether to leave the hospital, but at the last moment decided that he had nothing to do here. When everything happens, his wife will call and report it. Or maybe it's just false labor because the due date is still a month away. Well, how are you? A woman asked him when he arrived at his parents' house. I don't know. He went to the kitchen. His mom poured him some soothing tea. As he sat in the kitchen and drank the tea, his phone rang. What? He shouted into the receiver. His mother looked at her son with big eyes. What's going on there? She realized it was the maternity hospital calling. They're calling me. Veronica's not well, Harvey said in a lifeless voice. So why are you sitting there? Go, she sent him. Harvey couldn't drive himself. His father drove him, and when they arrived at the maternity hospital, something terrible was going on. Doctors were rushing around, and at one point a doctor ran up to Harvey, grabbed him by the arm, and dragged him along. Your wife just gave birth and is dying of blood loss, she told him on the way. What, like dying? He didn't believe what the woman was saying. But when they were in the ward, Veronica was already unconscious. She was transferred to the intensive care unit. The young mother never regained consciousness. 2 days later, she was gone. All this time, Harvey was in the hospital, his father by his side. When they were informed of the death of his daughter-in-law and wife, the father felt bad. He lost consciousness. Help, was frightened son. That now also will lose a parent. Immediately, the doctors came running. They put the man on a gurney and took him away. Mom did not know what to do. Harvey. He did not say anything to the woman, afraid that she will become bad from what he heard. What's wrong? She kept asking. But 40 minutes later, the woman was here too. Veronica died. He looked at his mother with empty eyes. What? Where's the baby? She got very agitated. He's all right, cried Harvey. After that, the son went to the doctors and asked to be sedated. The mother was not so young, so the son was afraid to talk to her about further. He brought water, pills, and after the mother drank it all, he took her hand and told her about his father. Even after taking a sedative, the woman did not take the information well. I need to go to him, the woman said. At that moment, the doctor came out into the corridor. He looked at the people who were sitting in the corridor, approached them. What you say? The woman felt something wrong. Your husband and father are also gone. We did everything we could. He waved his hands. Mom, Harvey screamed. I'm all right. She was a woman and therefore strong. Realized that there was a small child left in her arms and no one to deal with him. And what do we do now? Harvey covered his eyes with his hands. Nothing can be done now. You need to live on. Looked at one point of the woman. There were so many thoughts in her head that she could not keep track of them all at once. A few days later, they took the child from the hospital. It was a boy who was named John. The father's body was also given to them at once, but Veronica was left behind. An autopsy was to be held to find out what the woman had died of. "Harvey, take care of John," his mother told him, because she had to take care of the funeral, to do everything. She couldn't do it alone, and he was depressed. He didn't want anything, and he didn't need that child. His favorite woman died because of him. He just hated it. Harvey got up, got dressed, and went to his apartment. "Where are you?" His mother called him. "I'm home," he told her calmly. "Why are you home when you have so much to do?" She didn't understand him. "I do not need this child. Give him to the orphanage," he told her calmly. "What are you saying? This is your son and my grandson. I cannot give him away. You will betray Veronica," she told him. But Harvey didn't listen. He took a bottle from the bar, and now he wanted only one thing: to get drunk and forget himself. The woman hired people to bury her husband and daughter-in-law. She also paid money for a woman to babysit John. Harvey was all this time unknown where he was, unknown with whom, and unknown what he was doing. A month after all this happened, Harvey came to his mother's house. "Come in," she looked at him. He was all thin and gaunt, black bruises under his eyes. "I don't want to live," he told her. "Come and look at John. Your son is very much like you. You must live for him now," she told him. The father walked into the room. He looked at his child. He hated him. One had to get used to living alone, but how to do it, no one knew. And 6 months later, another difficulty began. My father's companion, who had half of the shares of the plant, said that he was taking over the management of the plant. By what right? Half of the shares inherited by his mother. Could not understand Harvey. "No, not half. I own 51%, and your mother only 40%, the companion told him. "When did that happen?" Harvey didn't understand. He'd always thought his father owned the plant. "A long time ago, I bought the shares from some of the employees," he told him. Harvey realized that they were losing their plant, and what to do now was not clear at all. And since he did not understand anything about this production, he could not work there. Everything was sad, and it was unknown what to expect from the future. "Mom, let's sell the apartment," her son told her. "Yes, I agree with your proposal, because we have practically no means of subsistence," she told him. First, they sold the apartment, then the shares of the factory. Now they had only the house left. The mother and Harvey did not work anywhere. When the boy turned 3, it became clear that he was not in good health. They took him for a checkup, and the doctors were just throwing up their hands. When they took a pluck from him for histology, it turned out that he was developing a terrible disease. "If something is not done in the next year, then, most likely, we will not be able to save the boy," the doctor said. "What is it? Why is it so bad?" Harvey asked his mother. "I don't know," she sighed. From that moment on, the woman and her son began to look for ways out of the situation. They didn't know who to turn to, who to ask, or what to do. In winter, the woman's heart became bad. They had to call an ambulance, and she was taken to the hospital. "Please, just don't go," Harvey asked her. "Sonny, I'll do everything I can," and she cried. Harvey realized that now he was left alone with his troubles, and what to do. The man did not know at all. He started surfing the internet, looking for a solution to the problem. At some point, he came across a fund that was in their city that could help and raise money for the operation. "Hello," he dialed the number that was listed on the website. "Good afternoon, the Flowers Foundation welcomes you," a female voice answered him. "Can I come to you?" he asked. It was the last instance to which the inconsolable father could turn. "Yes, of course. What is your problem?" asked on the other end. "I'll tell you everything when I get there," he promised. Harvey quickly packed and drove to where he was expected in an hour. On the way, in his head, he was running through what and how he would tell. The man did not like to ask, but now it was necessary. He drove up to the building, sat in the car for a long time, and then got out of it and headed for the entrance. He entered one of the offices. There was a woman sitting at the desk. He walked through and sat across from her. "Hello," he looked at her and waited to see what she would ask him. "Greetings." Lucy recognized the man immediately. She felt a twitch. "I would like to ask for your help," he said. and lowered his head. And yet there is justice, she smiled, though she didn't know what had happened or who needed help. I don't get it, he stared at her. Of course, you don't remember me, but I remember you well. She turned on the chair to the window. Yes, I don't remember you. He looked at the hostess of this foundation. We study or work together somewhere. No, she turned back to him. Where did you meet then? He needed to know now. Does this remind you of anything? She pointed to the wheelchair. No, should it? He thought about it. Your name is Harvey and you're the local bigwig, Lucy told him. Not for a long time now, he realized this woman must be from his past life. Ah, and when had things changed? She eyed him with a sneer. Many years had passed since Lucy had last met Harvey. In that time, a great many changes had taken place in the girl's life. She'd had a lot of work with doctors. She had traveled abroad. She had metal vertebrae put in. And now she could not only stand on a support, but also move around. Without a stick or a walker, it was not very long, but with a support, almost constantly. Lucy did not give up her art. She continued to paint and sell her paintings. Often she held individual exhibitions, from which all the money was transferred to charity. Lucy lived with her parents, who still help her with everything. Tell me straight, you asked me for money and I didn't help you. He was sitting across from her. No, I would never ask you, she lowered her eyes. What then? Did I deceive you and you wanted to kill yourself out of unhappy love? He guessed. Oh, no need to be deceived on your own account, she laughed. Let's talk openly, he asked Lucy. Well, remember the party in the park? I think it was City Day then, she began to remind him. Oh, what else? I have to memorize all the holidays. Now he really thought that he had picked her up that night and then dumped her, so she remembered him. Well, if you don't remember me, why should I help you now? She looked at him intently. You will not help me, but my child. And he began to tell her what had happened. Would you like me to remind you what happened with you and me? She looked at him with a half smile on her face. I do, he nodded. Then Lucy began to tell him how he pulled her out of her wheelchair, how he laughed at her and made fun of her in front of her friends. I'm sorry, that wasn't me. There's a different person in front of you now. He dropped to his knees and was now looking down at her. If it wasn't the baby that was sick, but you, I would never help, Lucy sentenced. I'm sorry. Harvey was still on his knees. It looked like he was about to cry. Stand up. Let's decide what to do, she said seriously. Harvey stood up. He pulled out of his briefcase all the papers he had on him, the doctor's report, the tests, and everything else. This wasn't the first time Lucy had seen something like this. She knew what had to be done. Do you have any money? She asked Harvey. I could sell the house, but then I'd have nowhere to live, he said. No, you don't need to sell the house. Let's think about something else. Lucy looked out the window. She was thinking about when and where she could organize an exhibition and what she could sell at it. I have some antique furniture, he told her. Now, that's a different conversation, she perked up, because there was a big demand for antiques in their town too. When and where can I spend what? He asked her. I have a few paintings at home, as well as volunteers who do various crafts. All this we will collect in the next few days, and I think that at the end of the month we will organize an auction, she told him. As they were about to finish their conversation, Lucy's mother walked into Lucy's office. She saw Harvey and stopped at the door. What's he doing here? She asked her daughter. Mom, his son is not well. He needs help. I can't say no to a child, she said, looking at her. You were a child too when he abused you, she reminded her. That was a long time ago and not true, Lucy said, and closed her eyes. But you remember him, don't you? The woman looked at Harvey with hatred. He who remembers the past will be put out of this sight, said the fund manager and wrote something down on a piece of paper. She handed it to the man sitting across from her, which turned out to be her phone number. What is it? He asked her. It's my direct number. Call me immediately, she told him. Thank you. He knelt down in front of her. She then held onto the windowsill to watch Harvey walk out of the building and get into his car. He's got a car. He can sell that too, she said aloud. Harvey drove home. He called every friend he could. Some of them asked for money. Some of them lent it to him. That evening, he called Lucy. Harvey, I saw you leaving in your car today. Is it yours? The girl asked. Yes, mine, he said. And at that moment, he realized what she wanted to offer him. "Do you agree to sell it?" she asked her question. "Of course, to make amends to you and to help my son. I am ready for anything," he said in such a tone that she felt sorry for him. "You don't make it up to me, you owe it to your son," she said, and remembered how badly she had felt, and her father had done everything to help her. From that day on, Harvey and Lucy became close. John was in the hospital with his grandmother, and his father was doing everything he could to help him raise money for the operation. Harvey, Lucy called him every day. She asked him how John was doing, what had been raised, and what the doctors were saying. Hi, they chatted like old acquaintances. No change yet. That's too bad. The girl knew from herself how important it was to make progress all the time, but hopefully it was still small, and the body was renewing itself constantly. "Are you calming me down on purpose?" he asked her. No, it was. She had already found the room where the sale would be held. Now all that was left was to set a day and bring everything there. "Dad, will you help?" The girl asked her father. She could solve everything on paper, but it was still as difficult for her to move around. "Of course, why do you ask? Everything you do goes plus to your karma." He hugged his daughter, who had already overcome a lot. From that day on, they started to bring in furniture that Harvey had at home into one of the buildings in town. His car was also for sale. Lucy's paintings and all the crafts that had been made by her own hands were all taken to the same premises. Now all that was left to do was to wait for a certain day and sell everything. People were invited who wanted to help and were happy to do so. Worried, looked Lucy at her new acquaintance and old enemy. "You know, if someone did to me what I did to you, I wouldn't help them, and you have a big heart." "All right, quiet. It's starting." She put her finger to her lips. It had indeed begun. The sale was going very briskly. Some items were selling for such a price it was unbelievable. "Wow, you're doing great," whispered Lucy to Harvey. "Quiet," she hissed at him. After a few hours it was all over. All that was left was to count how much money had been made. "What do you think?" Lucy looked at Harvey. "I can't even guess." He knew there was more than just cash. "There's enough here for your son's operation, but there's still some left over." She smiled and Harvey came over and gave her a hug. "What are you doing?" She looked up at him like she did then. "Lucy, you're the second person after Veronica that I respect and appreciate," he admitted. "I believe you. I understand that when someone you love is sick, you'll do anything to make them feel better." Her eyes grew sad. "Tell me your story," he asked her. "If we keep talking, some other time," she told him. "Okay." He walked around the chair, grabbed the handles, and rolled her toward the exit. The next day, Harvey called John's doctor, told him they had raised the money and were ready for the surgery. "You do realize that if it's successful, the boy will need care?" the doctor asked him. Of course, if earlier the man hated this child, that Veronica had died because of him, now he realized that it was the only thing left after her. "Hi," Lucy had called him in the night. "I didn't expect it," he told her honestly. "I didn't expect it myself, but I can't stop thinking about you," she admitted to him. "What will your mother say that you communicate with me no longer only about work?" grinned the man. "I can't get you and your son out of my mind." Lucy realized that now she had helped them, and she might not be interested in this man anymore, but she couldn't help it. "To be honest, I can't forget about you either," he said softly. "Shall we meet?" she suggested it. Now Harvey looked at his watch. It was the second hour of the night. "Why not?" she laughed. "I agree anyway. John is asleep." They agreed where they would meet. Harvey left the house and went to the meeting place. "Daddy, will you help me?" As usual, the girl addressed him. "What's the matter now?" He looked at his watch too. "I want to meet Harvey," she said and blushed. "It is true what they say that from love to hate is one step. Only you have the opposite," laughed the man. Though he and his mother were against it, but since the girl forgave him and Harvey was not against communicating with her, they did not say anything. "Hi," they met in the same park where they had an incident. "Lucy, I remember everything." He came up to her. "No, that's not why I called you here." She put her hands out in front of her. "John is having surgery any day now. Will you be with me?" he asked her. "If you ask, I will." She held out her hand for him to help the girl stand up. Harvey gave her a helping hand. She rose from her chair and took a few steps towards him. "Ooh," she stumbled and flew into his arms. Careful, he supported her. Sorry, she looked straight into his eyes. At that moment, Harvey pulled her close to him and wanted to kiss her, but at the very last moment stopped. I don't mind, she was ready for a kiss. You'll never forgive me, he pulled Lucy against him. I've already forgiven you. She closed her eyes and breathed in his scent. Okay, I don't mind being with you either, but let's wait until after the surgery, he asked her. Yes, I agree, because the baby's health is the most important thing right now. She sat back in her chair. Harvey had been holding her hand the whole time. Let me call a cab and walk you home, he suggested. No, my father's waiting for me over there, she pointed to the park gate. And he didn't tell you anything about coming to meet me here, the man questioned her. I think he and my mother have come to terms with my choice. She lowered her eyes and smiled. Who would have thought, when there was that situation, that it would be like this now? Harvey told her. He drove her down the alley. You don't know how much hate I had for you, she admitted to him and looked up. And I didn't even remember you. That's how it is in life. Sometimes you do something bad to a person. He remembers you in a bad word, and you don't even know about it. He regretted what he had done. Okay, let's not remember, she said. Promise me. Okay, if you insist, I promise. Harvey took her to the gate, but he didn't dare to go to the car. Aren't you coming? She asked him. No, I won't go today. Let's hang on. He nodded to the girl's father and walked in the opposite direction. A week later, the surgery was scheduled. John was taken to the regional center to have it done. Harvey and Lucy were by his side. Hi, the girl said to him. John looked at her and didn't say anything. If we're lucky, she'll be our mom, Harvey said in his ear. Mom? The boy raised questioning eyes at her. Why would you say something like that to him? Lucy liked the man, but she didn't know for sure yet if they were going to have a relationship or not. They were sitting in the hallway, holding hands. No one said anything to them. They were waiting for the surgery to be over. And then the doctor came out. Well, Harvey jumped up. You cannot worry, everything went well. Now he will be transferred to the intensive care unit. And tomorrow, if all is well, he will be in the intensive care unit, the man in a white coat told him. Harvey turned and looked at Lucy. He was happy. I congratulate you, she told him. This all happened thanks to you. I can't believe it's really true. Harvey paced back and forth in the hallway. Don't be silly. She was always happy when things went well for the people she helped. Excuse me for a minute. I need to call my mother, he said. Harvey stepped back, dialed his mom's number, told her everything that had happened. The woman was relieved. Well, thank God. At least one good news lately. Now we can die in peace, said the woman. What are you talking about? You still have to go to my wedding, said her son. What wedding? She didn't understand. Soon we will come home and tell you everything, he said, and hung up the phone. What did Mom say? Lucy smiled and looked at him. She doesn't know you, so what can she say? Harvey sat down beside her and put his arm around her. Don't you think we'd gotten on so fast? She asked him. But we've known each other a long time, he smiled and winked at her. Oh yes, I forgot about that, she laughed. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay with me? Or are you going home? He talked to her like they were old acquaintances. I guess I'll go home. The others need my help too. I'll wait for you there. She looked at him with loving eyes. Okay, John doesn't need me today, and they won't let me in. I can walk you home. He grabbed the handles of the stroller and they went to the exit. Lucy drove home, thinking about Harvey. It had only been a little while and they already had such a relationship between them. She really liked the man. She didn't even think he could do anything bad again. Harvey returned to the hospital. He was in the hallway waiting to be called to go see his son. Excuse me, you've been sitting here for over 24 hours, a nurse approached him. Yes, why? Is it forbidden? He asked. No, we prepared a bed for you to rest on, she said. Thank you, I could use it now, he said in a stammering voice. Harvey went to the room where he was escorted, and no sooner had his head touched the pillow than he fell asleep. He dreamed that he and Lucy were walking somewhere holding hands. She was walking on her own feet, he beside her, and John with them. Harvey woke up with a smile on his face. He didn't realize where he was at first, but then he remembered everything and sat up on the bed. The same nurse came in to see him. Are you ready to meet your son? She asked him. Yes, of course. He looked at her with such eyes that he was ready for anything now. He was taken to his son's room. He was lying with his eyes open and looking at him. His head was bandaged. "Sonny, my dear, hello. Now we will have a completely different life," he said to him and kissed him. The son took his hand and tried to smile. For 3 weeks, his father never left his side. And when they took off all the bandages and said he was fine, they were discharged home. "Are you ready to meet your mom?" Harvey told him. John was increasingly silent. He just nodded his head. They arrived home. Harvey's mom was already there. She welcomed her son and grandson with open arms. After they rested and ate, Harvey left to call Lucy. "Hi," she answered him. "You have no idea how much I missed you," he told her. "I never thought I'd be so sentimental." "Are you in town already?" she asked him. "Yes, we just got here a few hours ago." He didn't know what else to tell her. "If you don't mind, I'm coming over to say hello to John." She stopped by from afar. "Yes, of course, come over. We're both looking forward to seeing you." Was Harvey pleased to meet her? Lucy arrived at their house. Harvey met her by the gate. The woman came out too, to see who had come to see them. "Hello," Lucy said to her. "Hello." She looked at her son in surprise. "Mom, don't be surprised. Lucy had been in an accident, now not for long, but she can get up," he immediately explained to her. They were in the house. John saw a familiar woman. He went over to her when she called him. "Well, how's your health?" Lucy asked him. "Good," he nodded. "And that's wonderful," she hugged the boy. "Lucy, will you agree to be my wife?" Harvey took a ring out of his pocket. Just like that. She didn't understand. "Why drag it out? You have helped us so much. We have been without a mother for a long time. We want to have a mistress in our house," he said. Lucy cried and hugged the man. "What's the matter with you?" He didn't understand. "I do not know why you need me," she told him. "But if I become your wife, you will fulfill my most cherished wish." And what was that wish? Harvey didn't understand. After the accident, the fact that I will never walk, it was not the worst sentence. The doctor said that I will never be able to have children. And now you give me the right to have a child. She looked lovingly at the boy. "Lucy, I will only be happy about it." Harvey raised his eyes to his mother. He realized that he had done everything wrong in his life. "My dears, come into the kitchen." Their mom called them over. "Thank you." Lucy saw that this house had no thresholds, as if it had been made especially for her. "Did you notice?" He saw her look at the thresholds. "Did you do that just for me?" She was surprised. "Yes, I had to do something. It wasn't all about getting help myself." He walked over to her and they walked into the kitchen together. There the woman removed one chair from behind the table so that Lucy could drive up in her chair. "Thank you." The girl looked at her. "Why aren't your parents here?" Harvey asked. "They're outside the gate waiting." She looked up at him. "So why did you leave them there?" He did not understand, immediately got up from the table and went to the exit. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." Harvey's mother took the kettle off the stove. "It's all right, we'll explain everything to you one day." At that moment, the door slammed, and in a few seconds, Lucy's parents appeared in the kitchen. Everyone said hello, hugged, and whatever the relationship between Harvey and Lucy, for the sake of the children, everyone swallowed their grudges. "So are we going to be a family?" Harvey asked, sitting next to Lucy and holding her hand. "Yes," answered Lucy and looked at her mom and dad. "Children, we wish you happiness, and hopefully it won't happen again like it already did between you." Her mother looked at Harvey. "I promise you that your daughter is in the best of hands." They sat at the table for a while longer and separated. The grandmother was with John. Lucy's parents had gone home, and the young ones shut themselves in a room. "Do you want me to tell you about John's mother?" Harvey asked. "Yes," nodded the girl. After she gave her consent, he told her everything, how they had everything, what he was like, how he changed, thanks to the ordinary girl from the orphanage. Lucy looked at him and could not believe that this was really the same young man with whom she had once had a scandal. "Have you thought hard about wanting to commit to me?" she asked him. "You wouldn't believe how. It could be better," he hugged her. Lucy had not felt a man's caress for a long time, and now she felt such feelings for this man that no one could dissuade her from him. And the most important argument was John, whom in such a short time she had been able to love too. Lucy stayed at Harvey's house. "Why don't you work anywhere?" she asked him one day. You see, he told her everything as it was after her father died. "And what, you sold all the stock?" she wondered. Yes, he nodded and looked at his mother. They were having dinner. Why did you do that? She was amazed. We need to get a lawyer and sort this out, Lucy said. Don't mention it, Harvey's mother said. Well, if you don't want to talk about it, let's think about another case. She didn't back down. Okay, I agree to everything. He smiled, looked at his mother, and kissed his future wife. My children, I do not know what kind of relationship between you, but I can see that you love each other, approached the mom after a few months. What are you talking about? Harvey thought she was saying goodbye to them. It wouldn't be long before she hugged them both. No, you can't say that, the son was sure. Listen to me, Lucy was right. I didn't sell all the shares in my father's factory. You can take them. And rejoined there, she held her son's face. Listen to me, Lucy smiled. A couple more months passed. Harvey and Lucy had their marriage ceremony. The young man insisted that they be married in a church. You do realize that this marriage is made in heaven? His wife looked at him. I believe our meeting was originally built in heaven. He hugged her and kissed her. It's okay, he adored the girl and hugged her all the time. I am so afraid to tell you the most cherished words. Although they had been together for a long time, she could admit it. She had once been betrayed by the closest person she trusted more than herself. And now it hurts so much to think that it was all for help. You're a fool. He pulled her tightly against him. Yes, I may be a fool, but I love you very much, she said. And I love you. Harvey never left his wife's side. John loved to climb on his mother's lap, and she even took him for rides around the house. Everything seemed to be going well for them. The girls' parents were often at their house, and they became friends with Harvey's mom. Harvey, Lucy screamed one morning. What happened? He was frightened and ran out of the room. The first thing he thought was that something had happened to his wife. Mom, she was standing over the woman who was lying on the kitchen floor. What happened? He leaned over, felt for a pulse, which wasn't there. Call an ambulance, Harvey said, tears in his eyes. God, it couldn't be. Lucy didn't want anyone to die in her life. Everything happens in life. He was very sad that his mother had passed away. Hello, come quickly. She dictated the address into her phone. Harvey walked up behind her and gave her a hug. He couldn't hold back the tears. John was crying too. Your mother must have realized you were in good hands. That's why she left us, Lucy said smugly. You know how much I love you. His wife hugged him. As usual, the whole family was together. Mom was buried with her father, and they didn't have to mourn long, because a couple months after the funeral, Lucy got sick. Harvey, she woke him up in the night. What's the matter? He was frightened. I feel sick. I feel nauseous. I feel dizzy. Has it really started all over again? She told him. Now he picked up the phone, dialed the number of the ambulance. They arrived 10 minutes later. Just then Lucy's parents arrived. They were worried about her. The girl was taken to the hospital. Harvey, along with her parents, were in the hallway when the doctor came out of the room. They all stood and looked wary, waiting to see what he would tell them. Why are you looking at me like that? Who's her husband? He asked. I came Harvey forward. He was waiting for the most dreadful announcement. I congratulate you, Papa, said the doctor with a smile. What do you mean, Dad? Harvey didn't understand. A miracle has happened. Your wife is pregnant? The doctor smiled even wider. That can't be, he muttered. But it has happened, and if you take care of your wife and treat her well, in 7 months you will be the happy daddy of a second child, the doctor told him. I love you, he hugged him. Hey, be careful, the doctor pulled away from him. Can I go see her? Asked Harvey and looked at her parents. Of course you can, and she's conscious. She's just a little sick. You'll have to stay here for a couple days, the doctor allowed him, and they went straight into the room. Darling, did you hear that? He hugged her. Yes, and I don't believe it happens. She looked at him and at her parents with happy eyes. They sat in her room for a while longer, then left her to rest, said goodbye, and went home. John, well, I congratulate you. Your father has come home. With what? The boy looked at him. You're going to be a big brother soon, Harvey told him. That can't be, he wondered. The doctor just told us that, and if we treat our mom well, we'll be fine. Harvey hugged his son, and together they went to bed. 2 days passed and they all went to pick Lucy up from the hospital. All the family was happy. Do you believe it yourself? Her mother asked her. I don't know, but if the doctor says so, why not believe? She shrugged her shoulders. Does it ever happen? Harvey asked her. Look, lately I believe in everything that happens. If someone leaves this life, it means they're making room for someone else, Lucy said. So my mom left for a reason. She made room for our baby. Harvey was sure. It turns out so, she shrugged. Now parents, husband and son treated mom very reverently. They were paying attention to all the changes in her behavior and in general to everything she had been doing lately. I love you, Harvey whispered to her every day and night. God, my love, you have no idea how much happiness you have brought into my life. His wife hugged him. That's it. Let's spit so we don't jinx it. He spit over his shoulder. To ensure that everything went well, Lucy did not wait for anything, and a month before the due date of labor, she went to the hospital. Harvey was nervous. Remembering his first experience, he was already afraid, especially since Lucy wasn't exactly healthy. Beloved, you have a daughter born, and John has a baby sister, she called him herself. Harvey purposely did not call and did not find out anything, so as not to worry. And now that he found out everything, he was the happiest man in the world. 5 days passed. Lucy had to be picked up from the maternity hospital. Harvey and John and her parents were on their way there. Harvey, maybe you'll move in with us. Things will be easier, his mother-in-law suggested to him. We need to consult with Lucy. He looked at the woman. Okay, she nodded, knew she would probably agree. Hi, love. Congratulations. She wheeled out of the ward door with the baby in her arms. Lucy was hugged by her father and mother. They'd offered her what they'd only offered Harvey in the car. How do you feel about it? She looked at her husband. I'm okay with it, at least for the first time, he shrugged. Then I'm okay with it too. Her father and husband helped her into the car. John sat next to his mom and looked at his baby sister. Will you take her around? Lucy looked at him. Of course, if you let me, I will walk with the stroller in the yard, he promised his mom. Everything will be. Lucy was happy, especially from the fact that in her life appeared that person, which she was promised, will never be. It took a trip home to pack, but they were already ready, as it were. After that, everyone got back in the car and drove to the place where Lucy herself had spent her childhood. How did you agree to this? Lucy asked her husband. I got a job back at my father's factory, so I'll be home less often now, he whispered in her ear. I love you. She realized she had chosen the right man. And he really realized that if it wasn't for this man in his life, he would have nothing. They arrived home. His parents had set aside a separate room for the kids and for the parents. Mommy, Daddy, you're the best. Lucy thanked them. Thank you for your daughter. Harvey came up to them and hugged them. It was the first time it was clear that the girl's parents had forgiven the guy. She came up to them, and John came up to them. It was a strong and happy family.